Welcome to the program, everyone. My name is Brian Craig, and this is where MAGA comes to talk. Thanks for joining. President Trump, he's so smart, he's so brilliant, and he has really come out with something today that is so important. And this is having this mid-decade census. And, you know, the census is how everything in the country, the federal government, pretty much is run. The census is how you end up with our House of Representative districts in Washington. It's how our state governments and their legislature is doled out and divided. It's how federal funds are spent. It determines, your representation in the House of Representatives also is, where you get the electoral college votes for that state, meaning, however many House members your state has, that's how many electoral college votes you have. And, for those that are outside of the United States or are liberally impaired and don't know how things work, the House of Representatives has 435 members, no more, no less. So every time there's a census, some states, because populations change, some states gain members of the House and some states lose. And the Democrats have been playing games with the United States Census probably forever. And President Trump, what he's doing now is absolutely amazing. So let's go through that. This is being widely reported, and President Trump made a credible post on True Social earlier, but this is an article I'm going to go through now that is in the Gateway Pundit. President Trump triggered the left again. Yeah, the left are just triggered in general. There's not as many of them to be triggered as there used to be because there's not that many liberals anymore. There's more people being red-pilled and magnetized each and every day. President Trump triggered the left again with an announcement Thursday morning, that's this morning, that could threaten the Democrats' hold on several congressional seats and electoral votes. I was telling you about. Trump announced that he had ordered the Department of Commerce to immediately start working on a new census that would exclude illegal aliens from being counted. Only legal residents would be included. So you have to be a U.S. citizen or legal resident to be included in the census. And, in Trump's first term is when the last census happened in 2020. And if you remember, he was trying to get illegals taken off the count, and he wasn't able to stop that from happening. But things are different now, right? It's just things are different now, and it's possible to do it. President Trump posted on True Social this earlier, quote, "I have instructed our Department of Commerce to immediately begin work on a new and highly accurate census based on modern-day facts and figures, and importantly, using the results and information gained from the presidential election of 2024, Trump wrote. People who are in our country illegally will not be counted in the census. That's exactly right. And, a lot of other things other than House representation and electoral colleges and federal funding is done through the census. This is how states get money from the federal government for everything. This is great. The Gateway Pundit reported back in June that Trump was poised to remove non-citizens from the census. The result could prove devastating to the Democrat Party. The Gateway Pundit, they say, the census count is used to apportion House seats, determine the number of votes each state gets in the Electoral College for selecting the president, and drive the flow of trillions of dollars in government funds. It's really important. See, this is why back when James O'Keefe did that pimp and prostitute video was so important because he took control of the census away from some very bad people. Let's see here. Some immigration researchers project that including non-citizens in the census count disproportionately benefits Democrat states with large illegal alien populations. And not only is this 100% true, the Democrats, and until now, because this is happening, but up until like yesterday, they were very open about strategically moving people into certain areas to influence congressional districts. Red states would have benefited under the administration's desired census counting shift had authorities included such migrants from the 2010 census. Louisiana, Missouri, Montana, Ohio, and North Carolina all would have gained 1 seat each in the House. California would have lost 3. Texas and Florida would have each lost 1 seat because we had, back in our Central Florida area, we got a lot of illegals, with the total number of electoral college votes allocated each state changing accordingly. And this is happening. This is happening. Trump's got the mandate. He's got the power. He's got the authority. And there's been a common theme. If you're on hold, stand by. We'll get the calls in a little bit. I've been talking a lot this week because we're seeing all this action. The Pam Bondi grand jury, the census move, Adam Schiff's mortgage fraud investigation by the Justice Department, the redistricting in Texas, and there's other examples. But the Republicans, for the very first time in my lifetime, are governing like they're the majority and have won. And they never governed like this before. And all the past times that Republicans have been in power, they run like losers, like they lost. They still run like they're the minority party when they're not. And Stephen Miller was on Fox last night, and he was talking about this. Stephen Miller said 20 to 30 Democrat House seats would not exist if you did not count illegals in the census. Right? 20 or 30 House seats. See, and this goes back into so much of what we're seeing in the country. Right? The Democrats have been very successful in marketing themselves as being a voice of the people and a majority voice. The Democrats have been a minority for a long, long time. But they've done things like this with the census, their overrepresentation in media, and things like this, makes it look like they are a much larger group than they are, or ever were. And one of the ways they do that is through the census. The census is a very, very powerful thing. And the Democrats have always been dirty with the census. That's why, there's all this. I'm surprised we haven't heard it yet, but I imagine we're going to, that blacks were considered 3/4 of a person. Remember that rhetoric you've heard? That's not true. They counted the slaves as 3/4 for the purpose of the census back in the days of slavery. And the anti-slavery forces of the North, which would eventually become the great Republican Party, the grand old party of Lincoln, they didn't want to count the slaves in the census because they knew the slave states were trying to expand slavery into other states. And they were using their slaves to count towards congressional districts in the census to maintain power and not only expand slavery, but maintain slavery in the country. And the abolitionists, who would become Republicans down the road in the North, were trying not to count slaves, not because they thought that the slaves weren't human or 3/4 of a human. They were trying to stop slavery by not counting the slaves for the purpose of congressional districts in the census. The Democrats have always had monkey business with everything. Nothing you see with Democrats is real. Everything the Democrats do is always fake. Now, if you're new to the program, my name is Brian Craig. This is where MAGA comes to talk. If you're new, welcome. Make sure that you subscribe. If you're new, you'll enjoy my content. If you're on hold, stand by. If you'd like to call in, the toll-free number to call in is pinned in the live chat, 888-465-2631, 888-465-2631. It's a toll-free call no matter where you are listening. Okay, so here's CNN talking about it, and they're not liking this.
One of the big things is it helps decide congressional maps.
Right.
Does this have everything to do with redistricting?
Well, it does. In fact, we know the 2020 census, the errors were almost always to the detriment of red states. Blue states like Rhode Island.
Do we know that?
We do know that. The Census Bureau's own audit of its work has proven that. Blue states like Rhode Island were overcounted. Rhode Island then didn't lose a seat. Red states like Alabama were undercounted. Listen, this is just just a fact. It wasn't all red-blue, but it was disproportionately red-blue.
Yeah, I mean, that's just the way it is. And everybody knows this, and that's the purpose of it. And, you know, you cannot trust these left-wing... The census over the years has been done by left-wing activists, okay? Left-wing activists, they volunteer to be census takers, and they mess around with the numbers. We have not had an accurate census maybe ever. And you know, if President Trump is ordering a new census, it's going to be as accurate as humanly possible to make the census. But look at this. This is I saw this on the War Room. Look at this. California. This is just amazing. All right. California. 40% of registered voters in California are Republican. Remember, there's more Republican registered voters in California than here in Florida, where I live. So 40% of registered voters in California are registered Republicans, but Republicans only hold 17% of the seats. They're gerrymandering. In Massachusetts, 35% of the registered voters in Massachusetts are Republican, yet Republicans have 0 seats in the House in Massachusetts. In Connecticut, Republicans make up 38% of registered voters. They have 0 seats. In the state of New York, 42% of registered voters are Republicans in the state of New York, but they only have 26% of the congressional seats. In Maryland, Republicans make up 38% of registered voters, but only have 12% of the House seats. In New Mexico, Republicans make up 44% of the registered voters. They have 0 seats, right? I mean, this is what's going on, okay? And the Democrats, they're so outraged over what they're calling what's going on in Texas, and they know what's coming with the census, right? When this new census is done, and it will happen, we're going to see a lot of states that are doing redistricting, and Hochul and these Democrats say, well, if they're going to do it, we're going to do it. They're already doing it. Not only are they already doing it, they've been doing it. I mean, look at this. Look at this district in Louisiana. Racial gerrymandering, right, resulted in the creation of a 250-mile-long district in Louisiana that's about an inch wide, right? I mean, this is what the Democrats do. This is what they do. And not only do they do it, they brag about it as if it's no big deal. But now the Republican, you know, when your party is in power, you're supposed to, when it comes to redistricting, do the redistricting to benefit your party. It's not gerrymandering when you do it normally like they're doing it in Texas right now. All right? But the Democrats have always been doing this, so they're empty threats. Well, we're going to do it too. Go ahead. You're already doing it, jerks. But what they're going to find when there's a new the census is done federally. It's not at the state level. So a lot of these states are going to be told from the federal government they no longer have, because what will happen after this census President Trump is doing, the 435. Now, Ron DeSantis says we're going to gain a couple of seats here in Florida, maybe 3. Florida is going to gain 2 or 3 seats with this census. And who knows, maybe more. But we're going to gain at least 2 or 3. California is going to lose. Texas is going to gain 2. Because people moved to the blue states during the shutdown lockdown period, right? In very large numbers. So the federal government, it's just going to be done. And these states, they're not going to be able to do anything about it. New York is going to, who knows how many seats New York is going to lose. The population of New York is drastically reduced compared to what it was 5 years ago. So these are really great times we're in. I mean, this is not only a great time, it's a time that you have to truly enjoy, because, you know, we're going to have another MAGA president after Trump is done, but no one is ever going to be like Trump. Now, I'm going to take a quick break. We'll take some calls when we get back, and I got a lot more to cover as well. If you're on hold, stand by. My name is Brian. Our number is toll-free, 1-888-465-2631. We'll be back after this. On the line, we have Bruce. Bruce is a client of Jupiter Joe Thomas. He heard me talking with Joe Thomas about annuities and what a great deal they are, and he went in with his wife, and now he's a client. Hey, Bruce, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Brian.
So tell me about your experience with Jupiter Joe Thomas.
A fine gentleman. We sat down with Joe, and we explained everything to him, and we brought all our information, and he worked everything out great.
The cool thing about annuities is your money's never at risk. You're guaranteed a revenue stream for the rest of your life, but there's a bonus, really a signing bonus, where you can make a boatload of money before you even leave Joe Thomas's office. Can you talk a little bit about that, Bruce?
Well, that's where I was surprised when we sat down. We talked about the bonuses, and to my amazement, it was 10%, and there was even another one that's bigger.
Wow, that's amazing. So you made 10% on your money before you even got back in your car.
Yeah, it was more than that, but it was great.
Listen, guys, do what Bruce did. Give Jupiter Joe Thomas a call. You can set up a free consultation either on the phone or in the office, and Joe Thomas will put together a custom proposal just for you. His number is 561-743-0999. 561-743-0999, and online at jupiterjoe.com. All right, Bruce, thanks so much.
All right, thank you, Brian.
Hear ye, hear ye. Tom Laporta here from Laporta Roofing. Floridians, take note. Ron DeSantis and the state of Florida have allocated $280 million for the 25-26 fiscal year to fund new grants under My Safe Florida Home program. This grant is up to $10,000 when you spend $15,000 or more on your project. This may include roofing and wind mitigation systems. Go online at mysafefloridahome.com and get approved before the money is gone. If you need help, please call me, Tom Laporta, 954-604-4602, or find us at laportaroofing.com. It's simple. When you spend $1, the state matches $2 up to $10,000. They send you a check. I know it sounds too good to be true, but it is. So again, call us at 954-604-4602 or find us at laportaroofing.com.
All right, we're back. I'm Brian Craig. If you're on hold, hang in there. I'll take some calls. So this new mid-decade census is like a dream come true. People have been talking about it for the last, month or so. And DeSantis brought it up at Alligator Alcatraz when he was there with President Trump. And here we are. It's a done deal. This isn't like, should we have a census? There will be a new census now, and it will be used for the congressional districts. The president gave the order today. So it's not a debate as to whether we should have it or not. It's a done deal. Just like that Obama coup grand jury here in Florida that Pam Bondi put together. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Obama coup grand jury.
You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
I am a Democrat.
Where are you calling from?
I'm a Democrat. You always, know what? I'm a Democrat. You know what? You keep slandering us, man. Every time I listen to your show, I'm going to call my lawyer. I'm going to see you in court, buddy. I'm going to sue you. I'm going to sue you for slander. Keep talking.
Okay. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
This is Mike from Louisiana.
Oh, hey, Mike.
That article you showed earlier with that map of Louisiana with that voting district in it,
Mm-hmm.
I live in that district.
Oh, really? That 250-mile long district that's an inch wide?
Yes, I live there, and that's basically done for racial thing.
Yeah.
So that's being taken up to the Supreme Court. That map, that district.
Mm-hmm.
So what's going to happen first? Will it get to the Supreme Court first, or will the census happen first?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we got two shots at the apple of getting rid of that district here in Louisiana. I mean, look, I didn't like the guy who represented me because he was a never Trumper, Gary Graves. He was a never Trumper, but he didn't deserve to have his district taken.
Here's the deal, okay? We're going to have a lot fewer Democrats in the House. That's just the way it is. They're overrepresented, and they know it. They know it. All right, appreciate the call. Yeah, Mike in Louisiana's right. He lives in that skinny little district. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from? You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Yeah, my name's Nick. I'm from Indianapolis.
All right, Nick. What's up?
Yeah, I want to know what you think that Trump has done for middle-class Americans, like genuinely. Because
that's all.
the way I look at it.
Yeah, great question. You ready for the? I'll give you
Go
some
ahead,
answers.
Andrew.
I'll give you some answers. My mother is retired. She's retired and she's a widow. And I just was calling her up the other day, and I said, Mom, I said you just got a $6,000 tax deduction on your Social Security in the big beautiful bill. And she was so excited. That means my mom's going to get she's got that $6,000. She's going to get a tax return. And for a retiree living on Social Security, that money's going to come in handy. Me personally, he made permanent the Trump tax cuts for the middle class that were going to expire after this year. So we kept our taxes low. He rid tip workers of taxes. There's no more taxes on tips, no taxes on overtime. Is that enough, since you asked, or do you need more?
No, not really. How I look at it is, I'm an economist.
Oh, really?
So what we're looking at now is an unprecedented housing crisis. In the next 10 years, private equity will be completely wiping out all of the houses for the middle class.
Really? I live in a house. Wait a second. You're an economist, and I guess you're in the Central Time Zone, so you're an hour behind me on the East Coast. So as an economist, what do you do for work? Like, how do you get paid? How does someone who's an economist earn money? Where they can be on the phone, in the middle of the day calling talk shows on YouTube and stuff.
I run a business, and I'm not a Democrat.
Wait a minute. You
so
didn't say you were a business person. You said you're an economist. What does that mean?
I went to school. I went to school for economics.
What level of degree do you have?
Say that again?
What level of degree do you have?
Oh, I just have a regular bachelor's degree.
Well, you're not an economist. To be an economist, you'd have to have a graduate degree to be an economist.
Sir, you're getting into logistics. You're trying to do a hit job on me.
I'm not trying to do a hit job. I'm just exposing. You lied. You're a liar. You're not an economist. Trump's an economist.
Okay. Trump is a liar. Look at how many times he's lied. I'm not a liar. You can look at my business. I'm not going to tell you the name of it because you're going to blackball my business.
No, I wouldn't do anything. But you said I wouldn't do anything to hurt a man's business. You said you asked me a question. What's Trump done for the middle class? I gave you several examples.
I'm trying
respond
to give you a rebuttal.
Respond to my answer.
And you did a hit job.
Respond to my answers.
Okay. What is your answer?
I told you the $6,000 deduction on Social Security, no tax on tips.
I was trying to answer, and you did a hit job.
Well, go.
Let's go.
Let's go. Yeah, go ahead, man.
Okay. We're looking at an unprecedented. This is not 2008. This is something like we have never seen. Private equity, because they have no tax incentive to stop buying houses. They will continue to buy houses. They will squeeze out the middle class. There's many economists who are working on this now. There are some that don't believe that it will happen, but many do. And they're going to be squeezed out.
You don't know what the hell you're talking about. You don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Donor of billionaires.
No, excuse me. Excuse me. You're not. I answered your question, and you're not responding.
I'm answering.
Your question was.
The middle class is not going to be able to buy houses in 10 years, and he's doing nothing to address that.
Sure you can. Sure you can. You said.
All he did was take in donations.
Goodness. Listen. Slow down. Slow down. Slow down. You said. You asked me. Okay, what he's done for the middle class.
Yes.
I gave you some examples. You haven't responded to any of them. No tax on tips. Is that good?
But that does not matter. That doesn't matter if you can't buy a home.
Sure, you can buy a home.
They're trying to push us to a renting economy.
Sure, you can buy a home. So you can.
This will affect you.
Listen, in my community, people buy and sell houses all the time. Sure, you can.
Yes, this isn't happening now. Things will happen in the future.
Well, then
then
get a second job.
Unlimited supply.
Yeah.
Do you think there's an unlimited supply of houses? Look at BlackRock. Look at Vanguard.
Absolutely.
Look at how many houses
in my
they're
city
buying on a yearly basis.
In my
this
city.
Is going to affect,
oh my goodness! All right, thank you for your call. I can't. Listen, guys. You can't go on a nonstop rant. I understand that Gen Z and millennials don't have phone conversations with people too much, and they don't understand how to talk on the telephone and have a conversation because everything is through apps and DMs and texting and crap, okay? You guys need to learn how to have a conversation. And he'll call back and say, I hung up on him because he disagreed. You can call back, but you got to learn how to have a conversation. You know, where I live in Florida, there are new developments being built right now, right down the street from where I live. There's still new homes. Now, yeah, they may cost more money. You know, President Trump's trying to get rid of this idiot Jerome Powell. He'll replace them. They'll lower interest rates, and that'll help. But, you know, the house that my mother lives in, she bought, I don't know, like 40 years ago, maybe a little longer. She paid less than $60,000 for her house, and it's worth a lot more money than that now, okay? My house, I've lived in my house a little more than 20 years. It is worth more than twice what I paid for it. But you know what? When I paid for it, I paid almost 3 times what the original price was of the house that I live in. Okay? Real estate always goes up. Okay? You got to go out and get a job making some more money. You can't be a Twitch streamer and buy a house. You can't work at the Old Navy and buy a house. That's just the way it is. All right? Deal with it. All right, let's go. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
My name doesn't matter. I'm in Michigan, but I was just listening to you talking to the previous caller, and the way you were interacting with him is a bit much. The guy's right. Housing price, not just housing prices, but apartment prices too, for even single bedrooms. Ridiculous.
Yeah.
And on top of that, the tip rate, like that doesn't matter. That's minuscule compared to what the price raise is doing.
Of course it matters. If you are earning tips and you're no longer being taxed on them, you're making more money every week. And for people that make a living in the tip economy, the amount each week sure they do. No, they make a living. And the amount of money they get each week that's extra varies based on how many tips they get, but it's life-changing money for people at that income level. Just because you're not a tip worker, you don't care, because like most liberals, you'll deny you're liberal, but most liberals are selfish and only care about themselves and can't see how things help others.
That's a definite trumper right there.
What?
You just seem to like to interrupt people to get.
Well, it's my show. It's my show. You guys are you're calling in. It's my show. Yeah, it's a talk show. I'm going to talk. Yes, get your own show. You can do all the talking.
Oh God.
That's a good.
I think I realize what I'm dealing with now.
What are you dealing with? What are you dealing with? Not mommy and daddy that handed you participation trophies when you were a kid? That's exactly right. Oh, man. All right, let's go. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from? You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
It's me again, faggot.
No. Hey, listen, thanks for the call. Oh, my goodness. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from? That's The Economist. Was that one of those big college words?
Sorry.
You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
It's Robin. I'm calling from St. Louis,
Missouri. What's up, Robin, in St. Louis?
Was watching your show.
Yep.
And I saw an article about it was a poll asking Republicans like, hey, if the Epstein.
No, we're not talking about that. We're not talking about that. All right, take care. All right, you're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
So do you think that Epstein's buddy?
No, we're not talking about that. Now, there's a couple of, if you're on hold, stand by. There's a couple of articles that I want to go over before we take another break. This one here, this is a really important one. Pete Hegseth is absolutely amazing, by the way. Let me pull this article up. Pete Hegseth has ordered the return of a Confederate monument at Arlington Cemetery. And, this is the thing about these Confederate monuments. And this is a very important point to be made about the Confederate monuments. You know, the reason that the Democrats were going around a couple years ago and taking down all of these Confederate monuments had nothing to do with who they were or what they were. All of these Confederates that are memorialized are Democrats, each and every one of them. You know, the original Democrat community activist organization, you may have heard of them, the Ku Klux Klan. There's a Democrat-founded organization. The Confederacy was a Confederate government. All these Confederate generals were Democrats. And what started to happen is people, in particular minorities, started to realize this. You know, everybody's got a computer on their phone. They see a monument, they go up to it, and they're like, wait a minute, this Confederate general was a Democrat. Oh, my goodness. So what the Democrats were doing by taking all of these things down was trying to wipe out their history of their party. And I'm no supporter of the Confederates. The Confederates were insurrectionists. It was a Democrat insurrection against the federal government of the United States. That's what the Civil War was. And it's important to have these things up and not remove them so people know our history. They're trying to erase history. They want to start over with and wipe the slate clean. And we're not going to let them do that. And these monuments need to go up for that. You don't want to wipe out our history, the good or the bad. But the main reason they do it is they don't want you to know that all of these Democrats and Ku Klux Klansmen and such were Democrats. And each and every one of them were. In fact, Arlington Cemetery itself is, in a way, a Democrat memorial, because a lot of people, if you've been to Arlington Cemetery, you probably know this, but they don't teach this in school because it involves Democrats. But the Democrat, well-known Democrat, one of the most famous Democrats in American history, General Robert E. Lee, Arlington National Cemetery was actually on Robert E. Lee's plantation. And there was a military garrison there, and they were burying some of the dead from the fighting that was going on around D.C. There was a Union Army officer in charge, and his son was in the Union Army and killed by a Democrat insurrectionist, a Confederate. And he started burying the bodies of the dead soldiers on Robert E. Lee's plantation, so that Robert E. Lee would never be able to get his plantation back after the war. And that's what Arlington National Cemetery is today. In fact, Robert E. Lee's house still stands there. You can go and see it at Arlington National Cemetery. The Democrats are terrible people, okay? They used to own black people. They had another slavery here going on with the illegal migrants, okay? The Democrats are terrible, evil people. Nothing good comes out of the Democrats. And all these memorials need to go back up so that people know what the Democrat Party is all about, what they've always been about, what they always will be about. And that will be very evil, evil things, because nothing good comes from a Democrat. Now, if you're on hold, stand by. We're going to take a quick break and be right back. I was telling Steve Kane this morning that come August, it'll be 3 years since Dr. Philip Appleton rid me of pain for the first time. It was in my knee. And my knee had been hurting me since I was 20, 21 years old. So it had been 30 years of suffering. And sometimes my knee would act up. It was my right knee. It would act up so much, I just wanted to sit down and go to sleep, because the pain was so bad. And Dr. Appleton treated me. And I know it was 3 years ago because I remember a salesman from the radio station took me to meet Dr. Appleton. And I told Dr. Appleton about my knee. I got that free consultation that you can take advantage of too, the free consultation with Dr. Appleton. And he treated me with the laser treatment on my knee, which is 100% painless. There's no shots, no injections, no downtime. In fact, not only is it completely painless, you don't even feel it when it's happening. So that was on Thursday. The next day I woke up on Friday and my knee was already improving. I went for a second treatment on Saturday. First treatment Thursday, second treatment on Saturday, and then Monday the pain was gone. And 3 years coming in August, the pain has not returned, because the laser treatment doesn't just rid you of pain, it repairs the damage that's causing the pain. It's amazing. It works. And he's rid me of pain 6 times after that, for a total of 7, Dr. Appleton. We have listeners that travel literally from all over the United States to see Dr. Appleton. He is incredible. The laser treatment works on every type of pain I've ever heard of. Arthritis, which, by the way, he rid me of arthritis in my hand, bursitis, work and sports injuries, strains and sprains, repetitive motion injuries, post-surgical swelling, neck and back injuries, knee conditions, tinnitus, sciatica, spinal stenosis, fibromyalgia, plantar fasciitis, which I understand is incredibly painful, rotary tears, herniated disc, acute pain, chronic pain, and any type of pain you've ever heard of. Because I keep meeting listeners all the time with new pains I never heard of, and they're now living pain-free thanks to Dr. Appleton. Give him a call. Now, remember, appointments are not necessary. Walk-ins are welcome, even on Saturdays. Give him a call and say bye-bye to your pain. 954-973-0710. 954-973-0710. And online, AppletonChiro.com. All right, we're back. I'm Brian. We'll take another call or two. Then we have a few other things to bring up. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Yeah, man, why are you scared? Why are you scared to just have a conversation?
You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Yeah, man, why are you scared?
Oh, yeah, same thing as last time. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
I'm Ken. I'm mainly calling to ask you why it seems like you're making a lot of arguments that aren't in good faith.
In good faith?
For instance...
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I've not heard that phrase before.
Really? Interesting. So, you're going and saying the Democrats are trying to cover up history.
Yes.
And things along those lines where I think there's a large difference between not wanting a memorial versus teaching something in school. Memorials are meant to celebrate someone and memorialize that person and put them in a place of importance rather than specifically just saying information.
Got another college boy on the line. He thinks he knows something. He went to college, right? Did you go to college?
You don't need to be disrespectful to this.
I'm not being disrespectful. Did you go to college?
I've not. I am very interested in going to college.
Oh, well, you should. Well, be careful. Go to Hillsdale. You get a good, decent, conservative education. The memorials that they're taking down, no one is putting memorials in place that are new of Confederates, of Confederate generals. The statues, memorials, and things that the Democrats have taken down were things that were put up 100 years ago or more. Okay? So, like here in Florida, I live in Florida. I'm not originally from Florida, but here in Florida, Florida was part of the Democrat Jim Crow South, and the Democrats had racial segregation in the South, right? There are some places you can go that are historical buildings that are 100 years or more old, and you'll go to the men's room, and it will have the sign on it that says colored still. They don't take that down because you want to remember history, not wipe it out. Now, I would not support flying the Confederate flag today or putting up a statue to a Confederate general that's new. But these old memorials that they take down that's different. You wipe out our history. The Democrats don't want you to know their racist history.
So I don't feel that that's a fair comparison between the two. I do understand where you're making that connection. I will point that out. So I think something like a sign that says colored is clearly meant to show that, this is like hurtful and convey that emotion when you see it that, that was bad. Versus when you see a statue of someone, it does seem significantly more like it's trying to honor that person.
Well, at the time it was. When it was put up, a lot of these memorials were put up by the sons and daughters of Confederate veterans back in the early 1900s, in the 1920s, 1930s. And they were put up in large part by the Democrat activist organization, the Ku Klux Klan, the KKK. And and those are racist, and they are racist. But why do you think they've taken down so many of these statues that are been up there for over 100 years and then destroy them sometimes?
So, a couple of points in response to that, if you don't mind. For one, I do understand that there were many people that would have associated with the Democratic Party at that time, though I think it's important to also acknowledge that these people's views were different from people who now would call themselves a Democrat.
Really?
I think
What's different?
The power isn't so much...
What's different?
I would think Rather than going into specifics
No, I wanna
regarding
go into
policy
specifics.
from 100 years ago. Well, let
no.
me finish what I'm saying, sir. I know it is your show, and I do mean to respect that. But to let me give my answer of, I would say clearly the change in the racist views is a large part of that, and I'm sure just politics over 100 years have changed so drastically.
No, in fact, okay, now slow down. The Democrats, slow down. No, the Democrat Party today is the same party that it was in 1960, and so, and the basic ways of it. In 1860, okay, that was the election year of Abraham Lincoln, okay? And the Democrats owned slaves, right? They were black. They had black slaves, correct?
I agree that slavery did happen.
Okay,
yeah.
that the Democrats owned the slaves. That one slave was owned by a Republican when the Civil War broke out. The Republican Party was founded to free the slaves, right? So the Democrat, you don't agree that it was the Democrats that owned the slaves before the Civil War?
What I'm saying is there are not Democrats nor Republicans at this time that own slaves.
No. See, this is where you're wrong. Let me explain to you. Let me explain something to you. Now, whenever you go off to college, you're not going to learn this because they don't put, these liberal college professors don't tell you the truth. Okay, the Democrats owned all the slaves in the South, right? And they started the insurrection against the federal government so they could keep their slaves because the Republicans, led by Republican Abraham Lincoln, were going to free them. What just happened with the illegals, right? What do the Democrats say about the illegals? Who's going to clean your toilets? Who's going to clean your hotel rooms? Who's going to mow your lawn? Who's going to pick your fruit? Who's going to work on the farms? Who's going to work in the factories? The list goes on and on. Who's going to work in the car washes? Don't you understand that the Democrats have brought millions of illegals from Latin America into the United States, and they have a new form of slavery going on? They're paid, barely, slave wages, but the migrants are the new slaves of the Democrats.
So, I understand why you would feel that way. I do hear what you're expressing there. My rebuttal to that
would be... What is this, therapy? I feel like I'm in therapy.
I, as a white person myself, have worked in housekeeping at periods of time. I have worked with numerous Latinos in the past, and I would agree. There is a problem with wages. It does feel like a modern-day slavery.
It is.
The issue is that that's a product of capitalism, not of some democratic conspiracy.
You sure you haven't gone to college? Because you sound like somebody who's been brainwashed at one of these liberal universities.
See, I wouldn't say that's a good faith argument, sir. You don't need to.
Good faith argument. What is that? Well, I don't understand when you say that I don't have a good faith argument. I don't understand what you mean by that. I have an opinion that disagrees with yours.
Oh no, you're free to have whatever opinions that you would like. Of
I appreciate it.
Thank you. You understand that I'm not giving that freedom to you. It is inherent to you as a person. Okay. I'm not meaning to tell you that I'm the one that has given that to you. I'm merely acknowledging that it exists, sir.
When you hear, see, here's the thing. When you hear these Democrat lunatics, like many of them are in government, and they say, who's going to watch your kids? Who's going to mow your lawn? Who's going to work in the farms? Back when the Republicans, prior to the Civil War, and the Republicans were trying to free the slaves before the Civil War, the Democrats said the same thing. Who's going to take care of your babies? Who's going to pick the cotton and work on the cotton field farms? They were saying the same thing in the 1850s that they're saying in the 2020s. There's a slight differences, but it's not all that different if you think about it. And I think if you think about what I've said, you'll, down the road in private, you'll say, you know what, that guy made some sense. You just haven't thought about it this way.
I don't argue to save face, sir. I'd rather be correct and have an opinion that I truly believe than try to cover up something with something that I don't believe in. I truly am honest about
this isn't about believing. This is fact. I'm talking about facts.
So what I was going to respond to for your previous point is that, yes, I would agree that there is or overrepresentation of Latinos in those positions. I also understand where that argument from a lot of Democratic congressmen and senators and politicians says sound a bit unusual. What I will say is that these positions are not closed to white people. It's not as if you cannot apply. It's that these people are given jobs at the legal minimum wage, which I believe should be
All right.
higher.
Hey, listen. Well, you're new to the program. You're a very good caller, and I do appreciate it. Okay, but feel free to call me again because you're a very good caller. Okay, I'm going to move on. But what's your name?
My name is Ken. I hope you have a great day.
All right, take care. It's good to talk to you. Yeah, there's a guy. He's a little misguided, but made a little sense there. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hello?
Yeah. Oh, here we go. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Oh, this is Matt from Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I can barely hear you.
Well, you called me. What's on your mind?
I called you about I'm curious to see what you're arguing for. It sounds like you're against you said erasing of history and brought up the Confederate flag in schools.
We're not just in schools, but no. What happened is Arlington National Cemetery. They took down some Democrat Confederate memorials, and Pete Hegseth, the new Secretary of Defense, put them back up because we don't want to erase our history. That's what we're talking about, how the Democrats have been trying to wipe out their own racist past by taking down these Confederate monuments. But yeah, so what are your thoughts? Hello?
Hello?
Oh, hold on. I got my lines crossed. Hold on. Okay, sorry about that. I got the lines crossed. Go ahead. Indiana.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
All good.
All right.
What did you, what didn't you
It doesn't matter. I did just go on and, yes, we're talking about the Confederate monuments.
Monuments. Okay. Are you talking about Robert E. Lee, I'm guessing?
Well, okay, I'll say it again real quick. All of the Confederates were Democrats. All of the slave owners were Democrats. So the Democrats, the last 10 to 15 years, have been trying to wipe from memory and wipe from history their racist past. So the Democrats have been taking down these Democrat memorials. Pete Hegseth just put one back up at Arlington National Cemetery. That's what we're talking about.
I don't understand your argument for that or your evidence points for that.
My argument for what? You don't understand my argument for what and my evidence points for what? I don't understand what you're saying.
That you are arguing Democrats are trying to erase their history.
Yeah, you understand that all of the Confederates, all the Confederate generals are the ones that they have statues of, right? All of the Confederate generals were Democrats. You understand that, right? They were all Democrats. Every one of them. Correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Party switch.
There was no party switch. There was no party switch.
Come on, dude.
What do you mean there was a party switch?
There was a party switch.
What happened? Tell me about it. Where did this party switch happen? Where and when?
Where and when?
Uh-huh.
When they flipped ideologies?
No, what I'm telling you is this historic moment when all the good people became Democrats and all the evil people became Republicans, this would have been big news. When and where did this happen? I'll look it up. I'll pull up the news article about this historic event when the Democrats and Republicans got together and switched parties. I'll read the story. There must have been an article in the New York Times or something. Seems like a pretty big deal.
There's a lot. This is taught in history class.
Well, it's a lie. They're teaching you lies in history class in school. That's a lie. There was never. How would this happen? You see these Democrats and Republicans on TV now, right? They can't agree that the sky is blue. So how would they get together and decide they're going to switch parties? How did that happen?
Hold on a second. They're lying?
Yeah, it's a lie. Your history book's lying to you about that. There was no party switch. Did not happen.
Is history agreeing with what you have said so far?
No, history doesn't agree. History agrees with me. Lies in history books are what you've learned.
History disagrees with you.
No, history agrees with me. The history books disagree with me because they're lies. There was no party switch. It never happened. It's one of the biggest lies told.
Please. If you are denying these history books, what is your documentation for any events that have happened in the past?
What? Well, when you study history, okay, when you study history, I have a degree in history, okay? I studied history in college, okay? When you're in college, and I had to write term papers and research papers in college, I had to use what was known as primary sources. Do you know what a primary source is?
Yes, please do not.
Okay. Well, not everybody knows. Not everybody is as smart as you, and there may be people out there that don't understand. Okay, I'll give you an example that's easy to understand. If I were to write if I was writing a research paper on the Second World War, okay, and I wanted to use Stephen A. Ambrose's book, Band of Brothers, which is pretty famous, would that be a primary source?
Band of Brothers.
Written by Stephen A. Ambrose, the historian. Very famous. They made a TV miniseries about it. Tom Hanks produced it. It's very famous.
What is...
You never heard of Band of Brothers? Oh, my goodness. Okay. Now, the answer is no, because he wasn't there. A primary source would be a newspaper article from that period or a letter. So what I'm telling you is your high school or college history book is not a primary source. What I'm asking from you is, where can I look up in the New York Times or the Washington Post, two long-term newspapers in the United States, and find the news article written at the time, the primary historical source of this historic meeting of the Republicans and the Democrats where they got together somewhere and switched parties? There's got to be a newspaper article about it.
You are requesting from a primary source that was there.
Correct.
That saw it.
A newspaper article.
You are requesting information, an RFI, from a Republican or Democrat from that time.
I am asking for a newspaper article. A primary source would be a newspaper article. It could be other things too, but newspaper article would be the best. The two newspapers that have long-standing time in this country that are still in existence, the New York Times and the Washington Post. If the Republicans and the Democrats got together one day and said, all of us racists are going to become Republicans and all of us good people against racism are going to become Democrats, it would have been written about in the New York Times. So if you could point me to that article, I'll read it right now on the program, but the history book is a lie. There is no news article because it never happened.
Matt, can I have a rebuttal against that for a second? I heavily disagree with what you said. You are asking for a news source from the most biased time.
Well, pick another. It can be any newspaper at the time. It can be any newspaper. When did this big switch happen? When did all the good people become Democrats and all the evil racists become Republicans? And they got together somewhere and did the party switch. So this must have been a big event. It doesn't have to be the New York Times. There must any newspaper. What decade did this happen? Do you know what decade this happened in?
This happened after the Civil War in the 1870s.
In the 1870s. Okay. In the 1870s, we didn't have television yet, but there were newspapers all over the country.
There are newspapers.
Okay. So where is the newspaper articles that talk about this exciting meeting of the party? By the way, the legend is not in the 1870s. The legend of BS about it was in the 1960s with the Dixiecrats. I know the story. I know all these liberal lies. They talk about the Dixiecrats of the 1960s, and they claim that is a party switch. Does that
say that they switched parties during segregation?
No, they didn't switch parties. Nope. They didn't switch parties. They didn't switch parties. The Dixiecrats. Okay, here's what the Dixiecrats were. The Dixiecrats were. I can't remember the exact number. It was between 22 and 26, somewhere in that area. I can't remember the exact number, but it was in the low to mid 20s. 22 to 26 Democrats who were opposed to the Civil Rights Act formed what was called the Dixiecrats. It wasn't a real political party. It was kind of like, like you have these different caucuses in Congress, the Black Caucus, the Freedom Caucus. It was like that. And they rallied against the passage of the Civil Rights Bill. They lost. And you know what happened? What happened to all those racist Dixiecrats? What did they do when they lost and segregation was? What did they do?
Why don't you tell me about it?
Every one of the Dixiecrats except one went back to the Democrat Party. Al Gore, who ran for president in 2000, he used to be vice president. His dad was one of the racist Dixiecrats. He was the senator at the time. All of them went back to the Democrat Party, those racist Dixiecrats, except one became a Republican, Jesse Helms. Now, Jesse Helms is famous because he's the one that became a Republican, but the other, he was the one. The other 20-some odd of them all went back home to the Democrat Party. There was no party switch. It's one of the biggest lies of American history that's taught in public schools, even college and graduate school. It's even talked about in the news. As on CNN, they talk about it as if it happened all the time. It didn't happen.
I would be careful citing news sources as your.
Primary sources. If there's anything else, a letter. Where was this party switch? It did not happen. If something so big happened, it would be in every newspaper in the country at the time.
You have to be asking for a source of evidence coming from that moment of time, which will be the height of bias.
Well, if it was in the 1960s, it would have been on television. If it was in the 1960s during the Civil Rights Movement, that's when the Dixiecrats were running around, it would have been on television. Where's the television story? If the Republicans and the Democrats got together and they all switched parties one day, it would have been on every television network news broadcast in the world. I've never seen any television coverage of that.
Well, I think you severely overestimate the world's care about our political world in the 1960s.
Are you kidding? This is the center of everything. The 1960s? That was one of the craziest times for politics. The Vietnam War, the Civil Rights Movement. They killed Kennedy. They killed Martin Luther King. They killed Bobby. Come on. The Black Panthers. That was one of the most radical political periods in Western civilization's history, at least in modern times. Hey, listen, I appreciate the call, man. Thanks for calling. But, find that article or some news stories. I'll be glad to go over them. It's really interesting how... And I understand, I know a lot of you out there like that guy, you think I'm nuts when I tell you that. But if you go and look up what I just told you, you will find out everything I just told you was true. I wanted to talk for a minute about Howard Stern. Now, I saw a picture of him that I posted on X yesterday of him without his wig. Oh, my goodness. There's a lot of talk about Howard Stern, that Sirius XM Radio is getting rid of him. I read today that he may sign a 2 to 3 year deal so that he has 98 people that work on his show. I don't know what 98 people do working on a radio show. I mean, I've been doing radio my whole life, and it takes like 2-3 people max, and even that's too many. Really just takes 2 people, maybe 3, maybe, But he has 98 people that work on his show, plus him. And does that include Robin? I don't know. But I read a little while ago that he may do a 2 or 3 year contract so that his 98 member staff have time to transition off in their lives and don't just lose their job on the deal. But President Trump was talking about the fall of Howard Stern, and there's many reasons that Howard Stern has fallen, but the main reason is what the president said. In the first run of President Trump's campaign, he came out and endorsed Hillary Clinton, and he became a lefty political guy. And Howard Stern became famous and successful because he had the illusion of taking on the establishment and fighting the establishment. And what we find out is that he always was the establishment, that this persona that he put around himself, that he fought the establishment, he was a big tough guy, actually the opposite was true. And President Trump is spot on, right on the money. This guy, Howard Stern, he went on the air and he said, if you listen to Trump, if you're a follower of Trump, if you're MAGA, do not listen to me. Now, first off, I want everyone to listen to me. I never tell people not to listen to me. Who does that? An idiot. Especially when you're talking to at least half the country, but actually more because President Trump went all the battleground states and stuff. So he told more than half of the country that he doesn't want them to listen to him. That was the beginning of the end for him. When people saw what a wimp he was, he wouldn't leave his house after the shutdowns and lockdowns. He wouldn't leave his house for years because he was a terrified old lady, you know. But the sad thing about Howard Stern is that he was never the person that we thought he was. He was always a wimpy liberal guy who never fought the establishment. It was all a lie, and he unveiled his true colors. And you know what President Trump says? Everything woke turns to, that's right, SHI, and you can fill in the rest of that. And that's happened to him, Stern, it's happened to Colbert, and it's happening to others. And, you know, Sydney Sweeney, there was this, you know, who's MAGA. Sydney Sweeney is MAGA. She registered as a Republican here in Florida in 2024, and obviously she did that to vote for Trump, so she's MAGA. There was a lot of controversy about this Jean ad, right? Oh, jeans, she's talking about jeans, she's racist, all this white supremacist, Ava Braun, all this stuff. I just saw just right before the live stream here, she's got a new national ad campaign for another company that just dropped today for Baskin-Robbins ice cream. Baskin-Robbins didn't drop her after all this controversy around the jeans ad. They don't have to run those spots, and they're doing it. Why? Because the majority of the country is MAGA. I've got news for you. You're living in a MAGA nation where the majority of the people support Donald Trump and his ideology. And if you don't, well, that's okay. It's America. But you are in a cult. You are in a minority. You are in a cult. And if we were living in the country that bought all this liberal crap about Sydney Sweeney and the Dream ad, the jeans ad, and all of that, the Baskin-Robbins campaign never would have seen the light of day. Now, they might have filmed it before the controversy started, but they would have shelved it. But they put it out there because they know that MAGA is good for business. And that's why Howard Stern's going bye-bye. Because he's a liberal. People don't want to hear liberal crap from people like that anymore. All right, let's go. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Max from St. Lucie.
All right, what's up? St. Lucie, which is St. Lucie County, Florida?
Yes, sir.
Oh, that's a great place to be because Pam Bondi's grand jury into the Obama coup against President Trump is at the federal courthouse in Fort Pierce in St. Lucie County. This is exciting. You're in the jury pool, man. You could be on Comey or Brennan's. Cool. You could be on Brennan's jury. You're in the jury pool area.
Oh, wow.
I know. It's exciting.
Sweet.
What's on your mind?
Hey, I was calling about you were talking about the Confederate flag earlier, and you're kind of against people flying it. I'm a big fan of the Confederate flag. I fly it a lot.
I get it. I know a lot of people do.
I mean, I'm a Southerner. I'm from Florida, so, you know.
You know, listen, I'm not a native Floridian. I've lived here since 1982, all right? And I've been coming to Florida since 76. And I remember when I first moved to Florida, I lived not far. I live in South Florida now. But when I first moved to Florida, I lived in a place not too far from you, in St. Lucie County. I lived in Okeechobee, Florida, okay? And my dad still lives there. And you know what the kids called me in school? I'm from Ohio. You know what the kids called me in school? This was like 1982. You know what the kids called me in school?
No, sir.
A Yankee. I was a Yankee. Like 2 years. They didn't call me Brian. They called me a Yankee. I was like, oh my goodness. You know, so I understand. and you know, so I grew up in Florida. I've been here since I was a little boy. And how old are you?
I'm 25, sir.
Okay, you're young. But when I was a kid in the 80s, everywhere you went, guys had 12-gauge shotguns in the back window on a gun rack in their pickup truck. I don't know if you're allowed to do that anymore, but everybody had it, you know. I mean, it was, you know, and everyone in Florida sounded like you with the good old boy accent. You sound like a good old boy, you know. And
somewhat.
Yeah, and that's cool. I had no problem with that. St. Lucie County's. I almost moved to St. Lucie County a couple years ago to Tradition with my wife, but we decided not to. But you know, I understand about Southern pride and the Confederate flag and all of that stuff, but it's just not for me. The Confederate flag is the Confederate, it was a insurrection against the federal government, the Civil War.
Right.
right? It was what they said January 6th was, but wasn't. It was an actual insurrection. And about a million Americans died in the Democrat insurrection. So I'm just not into honoring the Democrat insurrection that resulted in the death of about 1 million Americans in the Civil War.
Well, can I ask you something, sir?
Yeah, sure.
A couple of years ago, I seen it on YouTube. That's how I first come across your show and everything. You did a show down in Woodlawn Cemetery down in West Palm.
That's right.
For my great uncle's buried there. He was one of the Confederates.
Yeah, here on my YouTube channel you can find it. This was a couple years ago on Memorial Day, Woodlawn Cemetery in West Palm Beach, Florida. It's just a couple miles away from Mar-a-Lago. And it's a very old cemetery, and there's a whole bunch of Confederate veterans that are buried there. And I made a YouTube video going through almost every grave, the ones I could find, of every Confederate soldier buried there. That's exactly correct. Yeah, and they should be remembered. It's pretty amazing.
Not every Confederate soldier owned slaves, or they were just standing up for Southern rights.
The Southern right to own slaves. What other rights? What other rights were they fighting for? What other rights were they fighting for?
Well, states' rights.
What state other than the states' rights to own slaves? What were the other rights that they were fighting to maintain?
The right to choose, or to choose for themselves.
Now, do you know that? Listen, I had respect for those Confederate soldiers, and all Confederate soldiers not only were pardoned, but were named American soldier veterans. All Confederate soldiers have the status of being the same status as a U.S. Army veteran. Okay, they deserve that status. However, the reason the Civil War happened, do you know the Democrats, they did not even have Abraham Lincoln on the ballot in the southern states in 1860, and he still won the Electoral College. They didn't even have Abraham Lincoln on the ballot, and the Democrats, they lost the election. Look how Democrats, you know how these Democrats are now? They're losing. You see them freaking out, Jasmine Crockett and all these jerks, they're on TV freaking out all the time because they're losing, because the Republicans are in power. That's how they were in 1860. They were the same way then as they are now, and they that's it, you know?
Yes, sir.
You sound a lot older than 25, though.
I don't know what to tell you. I swear I'm...
No, I believe you, but I think people, does this guy sound older than 20? You sound pretty smart. But that, I went down there and honored those veterans. They deserve to be honored. I mean, the history and their story is amazing. I really like what you did for mine. I don't know about. I can't speak for anybody else, but I appreciate it. Oh, you mean one of the Confederate veterans I showed their grave is your ancestor?
Yes, sir.
Oh, I didn't know one of them was. Oh, really? What's their name?
I really would not like to say.
Okay.
He was in the third Florida Infantry.
I'll go back and watch the video. I was thinking. I remember if you go back and watch that video, it was Memorial Day. It was hot, man, and I was wearing shorts and a Hawaiian shirt, and I was sweating like nobody's business. And I was thinking about what it was like for these guys in 1860, 1862, and all this stuff, wearing heavy wool clothes, cotton clothes, marching all the way up to Virginia, wherever they marched from Florida. I could not even imagine what it was like. I know I'm not telling you to be ashamed of your history or anything, because I don't think anybody should be ashamed of the Confederate veterans. But today, flying the Confederate flag in St. Lucie, you can do it. Okay, in St. Lucie County, it's one of the few places you can fly a Confederate flag still. But in most places, if you fly a Confederate flag, you're going to run into trouble today. Even in Florida. Right. Yeah, they're going to think you're in the Klan. And the thing is, a lot of people use the Confederate flag. Most of the time, when you see people walking around with the Confederate flag today, not in your instance in St. Lucie County, but if there's a political event and you see a Confederate flag, who do you think that person most likely is?
Well, it it depends on what the area. I mean, usually, yeah, if you see a bunch of white robes around it, yeah, that'd probably people stay away from.
without the
If
robes.
if you're like at a mud bog.
Okay.
If you're at
okay.
like a mud bog or something, that's probably just a bunch of good old boys.
Yeah, that's true. No, but if you went, as an example, I saw a Confederate flag or two at the Capitol on January 6th. Okay, I would bet you that if you went and looked at those guys that had the Confederate flag on January 6th at the Capitol, I don't care how much MAGA clothes they're having, they were either a Democrat or a Fed. And what happened?
I agree.
Okay, so the thing about the Confederate flag today is it's viewed as a symbol of oppression, racism, for good reason, because the Confederates owned slaves, the Klan used the Confederate flag, and the Confederate flag, as we know, it wasn't even the flag of the country. The battle flag we see was not the official flag of the Confederate States of America anyway. But Democrats carry Confederate flags to political events, pretending to be Republicans all the time to promote racism, and it doesn't help. So the Confederate flag hurts Republicans today. It doesn't help us; it hurts us. That's why I don't support flying it.
I got you.
I mean, do you think flying a flag around of an insurrectionist is a good idea? I mean, that's what it is, and it's perceived as that way. But you keep doing it in St. Lucie, you could still drive around with your Confederate flag in your pickup truck in St. Lucie County and be okay. And
I'll put it on my truck and on my boat.
On your boat and your truck, yeah, you probably do. Yeah, I have seen some guys in Palm Beach. They'll have a Confederate flag, an American flag, and a MAGA flag in their pickup, flying around, driving down the road. I don't know how the truck, it seems like at that point it turns into a sail. I don't know how you maintain control of the car with that many flags in the bed. But, no, it's good to hear from you. I'm going to go back to that video of the Confederates at the cemetery and find your ancestor. I'm going to go back and look at that.
Please do. Thank you, sir.
All right, appreciate it. Thank you for the call. Yeah. All right, let's go. Let's take some more calls here. That was a good call. We got some good calls on the program this afternoon. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Yeah, my name's Gary from Gary, Indiana.
All right. What's up?
Yeah, I was just wanting to know how you felt about Donald Trump being a Democrat, a lifelong Democrat until he ran for president.
He wasn't okay, you ask a very good question. I feel the same way about President Trump being a Democrat in his past, in the same way that I feel about Ronald Reagan was a Democrat before he was president too.
Okay.
Did you know that? Did you know that? Hold on. Did you know that Ronald Reagan was a Democrat?
Well, that's how you feel about it.
No, it's not how I feel. He was a. Not only was he was a Democrat.
Talking about Trump.
Yeah, no.
Talking about Trump, not Reagan.
No. But you ask how I feel about it. A lot of people wise up and grow up. Ronald Reagan was a Democrat for maybe close to half his life. Okay, and President Trump was born in New York City. And when you're born in New York City, when they give your parents a birth certificate, they also give them a Democrat voter registration card. But, a lot of people, when they're younger, are Democrats because they don't know the way of the world. And he
wasn't that young.
Sure, he used to, when President Reagan was president, right? He was president from 80 to 88.
We're talking about Reagan.
No, hold on. When Ronald Reagan was president, from 80 to 88, Donald Trump was at a lot of events with President Reagan. There's a lot of photographs of the two of them together. So he may have stayed a registered. No, they're all over the internet. Look them up.
Yeah, it's hard to find any pictures with Trump and any other Republicans hanging out, really. It's almost impossible. But I just wanted to go back to something else earlier, is the Klan. It may have been started by Democrats, but it was a Christian organization that was tax exempt for many, many years. It was considered a Christian organization.
Well, they got a tax exemption because when the Ku Klux Klan, there were several periods of the Ku Klux Klan where they were, peaking with activity. Of course, right after the Civil War, right? That was the first Klan. Then the Klan rose again in the 1930s when Roosevelt, FDR, was president, the Democrat. Right. And President Roosevelt, FDR, and the Democrats gave the Ku Klux Klan tax-exempt status because they were their constituents. President Truman was in the Ku Klux Klan. He was a Klansman.
Who was?
Harry S. Truman.
Who was?
Harry S. Truman, as was Woodrow Wilson, another Democrat president. Yeah, both of them were in the Ku Klux Klan.
If you look at the history, like you said, 1930. If you really look, like after the Civil War, 1965, the Confederate flag wasn't really flown again or even found until the Civil Rights Movement.
That's
started.
Right. That
even
was
in 1930, they had. Yeah. Even in 1930, when they did that march on the Washington Monument, they all had American flags. They all had USA flags.
Yeah. The 60s was the second rise of the Klan, right? The first rise was in the 30s, and then in the 60s. Yeah. But they had two presidents that we know of were members, both Democrats, Woodrow Wilson and Harry S. Truman, Democrats and Klansmen.
I get that, but I think that ultimately, I think everybody kind of dropped that and got their whiteness together and got together on the KKK train. I think that they dropped all the political thing wasn't even part of it.
Well, no, Joe Biden has Klan connections. His best friend Robert Byrd. You know what I'm talking about. Robert Byrd.
He's a grand wizard.
He was a Grand Kegel of the Ku Klux Klan. And he was and everybody knew he was in the Klan. And Clinton and Biden eulogized him at his wedding. I mean, not at his wedding. At his at his funeral. They eulogized him at his funeral. Yeah. Can you imagine a Klansman?
Huh?
Can you imagine Joe Biden, who was just president of the United States, eulogized a Ku Klux Klanman at his funeral? And most liberals that are watching me right now, they don't even know what I'm talking about because it's covered up. It's crazy. Could you imagine if Trump did that?
I know about it.
Could you imagine if Trump had done something like that?
Well, let's go back to. I'm a black man too, by the way.
Okay.
And I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I hate them all. Okay. But that goes back to Obama, and he picked that racist ass Joe Biden to be his vice president. So I think Obama identified more with his racist white half of his blood line than anything. When you really go back and look at it, him picking Joe Biden to be his vice president, it's like, whoa. When I saw that, I was like, whoa.
Well, Obama's like OJ. He only hangs around with black people when he has no other choice. He doesn't like black people. He doesn't hang out with black. If you go back to Obama, I mean, even when the first non-white. Do you know who his first non-white girlfriend was?
Well, Marcus Allen was black.
Michelle Obama. All his girlfriends were white. Most of them were blonde, but
I don't know.
Obama's girlfriends were white, and Michelle Obama was his first black girlfriend. Yeah, they were all white before that. Yeah. He's not a big fan of black people, Obama.
That's what. He. Like I said, I'm not a Republican or Democrat. I hate them both. I think they're both ripped, the country apart due to internet access and social media. Where I just can't stand any of them. I don't vote on any of that garbage. But I can sit here and look at everything from the outside lens, and I can see very clearly. When you don't pledge allegiance to a side, you can see very clearly exactly what's going on.
Well, Obama's more Muslim than anything, right? The Ilhan Omar and what's happened in Michigan, he brought in, we don't even know how many Muslims he brought into the country. That's why when Trump first became president the first time, the Muslim ban was such a big deal because Obama was bringing so many Muslims into the country.
Oh, I don't know anything about that. I haven't seen any proof on that at all.
Oh yeah, look it up. Look up Muslim ban. Go look at Michigan. Look at this Zohan character in New York. How many Muslims have overtaken New York City? Yeah, that's all Obama.
I know people throw up that he gave, I think it was Iran, like $52 billion or more, and that was for that peace. That was for that peace agreement that he had. That if anybody ever came along and broke the peace agreement, they would get that money to restart their program, and then of course Trump came by and he got rid of it, and they got the $52
He gave it to them in cash. He flew it. Yeah, he gave him all that money in cash.
Yeah, it was part of the agreement.
Mhm.
You know, they never would have got. You know, it is what it is.
They flew it over
But,
on Air Force cargo planes.
Yeah, America's done though, brother. It is out of here. But you know, you keep doing your thing. It was
What are you
good
talking? What do you
to
mean? What are you talking? What evidence do you have that America's out of here? We're kicking butt. America's
Oh.
back. This is the
No, I
golden
mean, we
age.
got concentration camps going up. We got military forces.
Concentration
on the street. We
camps.
got-
Wait a second. There's concentration camp in America. Where?
Yeah, you got Alligator Alcatraz. They're reopening Alcatraz out there in San Francisco.
Wait a
You
minute.
got
Wait a
one that
minute.
opened
Wait a
up-
minute. Wait a minute.
You got one in Kansas.
When
you got one in Kansas.
alligator,
that opened up.
alligator, you know, it's funny. I'm wearing an Alligator Alcatraz T-shirt right now.
Yeah, I know. I see that.
Yeah, it's a nice shirt. I have about
But, I mean, your
about
name's
6 of
on
these.
it, though. There's nothing. I don't know if you're a religious guy or not, but I don't think Jesus Christ would want people surrounded in the Everglades, no matter what they did.
Surrounded in the
Even-
Everglades. Do you know, I'm surrounded by the Everglades where I live. I live in
Yeah, I'm just saying,
South
I'm
Florida.
just saying.
I've got the Everglades on one side and the ocean on the other. I mean, I'm kind of trapped here. No. You said that Alligator. Oh, this is interesting. You said that Alligator Alcatraz is a concentration camp. What about what about Alligator Alcatraz is concentration camp like?
What about it isn't?
Well, give me the examples of the things that make it a concentration
Okay,
camp.
it's a question with a question, but what about it isn't?
No.
You know?
When somebody answers a question with a question, it's because they don't have an answer to the question. You called it a concentration camp, so give me examples of things at Alligator Alcatraz that make it like a concentration camp. I'm interested in hearing.
Well, number one, you got people getting flown in there that have no crimes, that some of them are Americans. They've had no due process, and if they're Americans in there, you know, by whatever reason it is, and they have had no due process, that's a concentration camp.
No, there are no Americans being held at Alligator Alcatraz. No, there's not.
They live going down there every day for Americans.
There are no Americans there. That now there are Americans who work there, maybe the guards and stuff. But I'm talking about is being detained there. And you say they have you say
down there for American citizens in there.
No, they do have.
Is that what you're saying?
The illegals do have the illegal migrants at Alligator Alcatraz do have access to lawyers. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and I'm not for any illegal border. You know, you got to have a border for your country, but you have to also understand that being illegal that's just a fucking misdemeanor. That's all it is. It's not a felony.
It's a federal crime.
It's a misdemeanor.
So what? I've never committed a misdemeanor.
There might be a federal law.
I've never committed a misdemeanor. Have you? I've never broken the law.
A misdemeanor could be anything up to a ticket.
But if you're in the country illegally, and a lot you are they all have a record, and they're federal fugitives from justice. Like you may have seen this. There's some body camera footage. There's some body camera footage from ICE that's all over the news today. ICE did a raid at a Home Depot in California. They were hiding out in a rented like U-Haul truck or something, and they did. Everyone who's illegals is a wanted fugitive. But a concentration camp, I want to get back to the concentration camp charge. You know, like when we think of concentration camps, we think of the ones in Germany in the Second World War, where you go into a shower and they kill you, and then they cremate you and stuff like that. Don't feed you, work you to death.
I heard that they're putting them on planes and like cargo planes, and I heard they're pushing them out above the ocean.
Give me a break.
They're telling us they're flying them back to their country. Huh?
Where is this? So, okay, hold on a second. You mean to tell me, where can I find this? Can I find this on CNN or MSNBC?
I've heard it on
You heard it?
sources.
Well, what do you mean? I just heard it. I just heard it too when you said it. Hold on. You mean to tell me you believe that the United States is putting people on airplanes, flying out over the Gulf of America, and dropping them into the ocean from high above?
We're the most corrupt government on the planet. What are you talking about?
No, we're not. We're not. Our government.
Are you kidding me? Are you kidding
I didn't
me?
ask you about corruption. You mean to tell me who gives this order? Donald Trump? Donald Trump has the military flying people over the Gulf of America and dropping them.
Donald Trump's not my God. I don't put anything past
No,
him or any other man.
So are you saying that okay, well, who's authorizing this? They're military planes? That's Pete Hegseth. So Pete Hegseth, the defense secretary and the president?
Wouldn't it be, it would be Noam. It would be that Noam chick, wouldn't
Kristi Noem does not have authority over the Air Force, or she doesn't have planes to fly.
Everybody, all those people got to get it cleared by
So,
the
okay,
president
so you
or
believe,
whoever.
okay, so you believe that Kristi Noem and the President of the United States are loading people on cargo planes, flying them over the Gulf of America, and forcing them out of the doors into the ocean to their death? Do you really believe that?
Yeah, I can see it. She killed her puppy. I don't put anything past her.
You've never had to put a dog down? I've had to do it, sadly. Dogs and cats, I've had to put them down.
A puppy.
People on farms, they euthanize their own animals sometimes. But that a puppy's not a person. A puppy's not a person.
Well, people don't look at human beings all the time as human beings. I mean, we see that all the time. We've seen it throughout the history of the government.
You really think that Kristi Noem is doing? First off, that's complete nonsense.
Kristi Noem was the governor of what? Utah or North Dakota, right?
You tell me. You got all these opinions on her.
I think it was North Dakota, but she's banned from every single Indian reservation in that state, and she was the governor. They just said, you will not set foot on our reservations. She was banned.
So what?
Banned.
So what? So what? So you got some liberal Indians in the Dakotas. So what?
I'm saying that to say
who cares? Who cares what the liberal Indians think?
I'm just saying that to say I don't put anything past her. I'm not saying, oh, look, she's banned. I'm not throwing mud on her. I'm just saying,
but what you said is that she's putting people on airplanes, flying them over the ocean, and having them pushed out to their death from above. Don't you think that'd be on CNN if that was happening? And don't you think?
Oh, hell no. It wouldn't be
really,
CNN
would cover up. CNN would cover up.
No.
Do you know the anti-Trump people tried to put him in prison? They shot him too, but they tried to put him in prison. So when these
you mean the little ear thing?
Well, he was shot. Yeah, he ducked.
He said he had blood all over his hand, and when he
did. I saw it. I saw it live. I watched it. So you're telling me?
Yeah, his hand had
hold
no
on.
blood
You're
on
telling me that these lefties that were trying to put Trump in prison are letting him get away with these murders over the ocean?
They may not know about it.
Well,
well,
wait a minute. What do you mean? What do you mean they don't know about it? If you know about it, you don't think they know about it? How could you know about these things and CNN and these government people not know?
Let's be honest. You know better than I do that CNN doesn't report everything that's out there that's going on that we should know.
So they're covering. Okay, so CNN is covering for Trump's murders. Trump's murdering people, and CNN and the Democrats are covering for him. Come on.
They may, like I said, they may not be reporting it. They may not. Media is in such. Why would
the people that arrested Trump cover for his murders?
Hold on. Look, he is suing every media publication out here that talks against him. So maybe they're in a frightened state. He has lawsuits against everybody that says anything negative about him.
But Democrats like AOC and Bernie Sanders,
Rupert Murdoch of all people. He's not a damn Democrat.
Democrats arrested Trump multiple times, tried to put him in jail. Okay, they tried to assassinate him twice. Okay. Why are they covering for? Why he was arrested? They got a mugshot. Why are they covering for these murders that he's doing?
He's convicted.
Yeah. Okay. So they did all that. Why would they cover for these murders? Why would they let him get away with murder? You should really. You know what I'm going to suggest. When you're done with this, rewind our conversation and listen to yourself, okay? I appreciate the call, and you'll say you'll think you sound like an idiot. Doesn't make sense. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
My name's Chris.
Hey, Chris.
Hey. Are we live?
Yeah. You're on the air, man. What's up?
Awesome. I just discovered this YouTube thing of yours, and I just love it.
Well, thank you.
It amazes me. It amazes me the level of ignorance of some of the callers.
I know.
I mean, people want to argue policy or politics, but they have no idea of the history of the country. What you're talking about with the Democrats before was really spot on. I'm a failed history professor myself.
Mm-hmm.
I became a nurse, got my wife knocked up on our second date.
Oh, my
So I
goodness.
had to do something to make money.
Yeah, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, I've still been reading history for the last like 20, 30 years. I mean, it's just, if you really want to know the true history of this country, you have to go dig a lot deeper than the textbooks that they hand out in high school and in college.
All of the history books are written by liberal college professors from places like Columbia University. So you get it, they're nothing but lies.
I mean, listen, I live in Northeast PA. I work in Bellevue in New York City, which is like the epicenter of it's
nut
like
houses.
the epicenter of liberal
lunatics.
commies,
Lunatics.
And the mindset. Yeah, I mean, you're working with doctors who still believe that that a male could have a baby.
Oh, yeah.
And you graduate from Columbia or NYU, and you really believe a guy can have a baby.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah.
Explain that to me.
Yeah.
But the the entire Democratic Party, at the time of the Civil War, all slaveholders. I mean, it's just and when you argue with people today, people are telling you that Trump is evil, the Republicans are evil. The Republican Party was founded to stop slavery. I mean, that was the reason that party came into being. And, nobody seems to know that today.
That's right.
And that's, in any school.
Yep, you're exactly right. Hey, listen, welcome. Are you new to the program? Oh, I
literally got into my car. I'm on my way to work. I turned on YouTube. You popped up, and I've been loving it for the last 20 minutes.
Oh, well, welcome.
Then I called in. Lottery. I just hit the lottery. I got, phoned in, and I'm right online. Awesome.
All right. Well, good. Well, make sure you subscribe, and I'll talk to you again, all right?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. Take care. All right. So, Stephen Miller got Stephen Moore talking to the president about the labor statistics. Let's watch this. This is, let me pull this up. This just happened. Watch this.
That he did the right thing in calling for a new head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics, because this shows that over the last 2 years of the Biden administration, the BLS overestimated job creation by 1.5 million jobs. Mr. President, that's a gigantic error. And I don't know if she's. I'm not.
It might not have been an error. That's the bad part. Yeah. If it was an error, it would be one thing. I don't think it's an error. I think they did it purposely.
Yeah,
Whether did. That you may well be right, but even if it wasn't purposefully, it's incompetence.
Right.
Yeah, it was on purpose. Oh my goodness! Don't you love this guy, Donald Trump? How could you not? You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Brian. This is Madison calling from California. How are you?
All right, Madison. What's up?
Good. I wanted to ask if I could talk about how I agree to disagree about Obama and immunity.
Okay.
Can I talk about that?
Sure.
Okay. So I've been listening and doing some research. So he is only immune from being prosecuted on the acts that are within his presidential authority.
Correct.
While he's in office, okay?
Yes.
Within the scope of lawful presidential activities.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, interfering with the Trump administration, not allowing him to govern, were done outside a very narrow scope of his responsibility as president.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So the criminal totally can be prosecuted.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, listen, what I've been telling people is Obama is bad. He committed treason. And he should go to prison, okay? No one is going to arrest the first black president. No one's going to do that. There'll be in every history book. They'll be in every history book forever, right next to all the segregationists. No one.
Okay, so
I mean, he's got a free pass because of that.
Okay, so I disagree with that, and there's rumblings that Hillary's going to come first because she was at the top of the
Well, Hillary's another story. She doesn't have presidential immunity, and she's not the first of anything.
Okay, and then how it goes to military court, It can. It's the crimes that were done, including interfering with an elected president, commander-in-chief of the United States at a nation-state level. Those crimes are not prosecuted. If they're not prosecuted properly within the civilian or an Article III court, you have to go to a non-Article III court.
You don't want to. You don't want to do that, though. You know, when
they said they will get.
Go ahead.
They said they will get the crimes, and it will end up going to a non-Article III court, a military court.
You don't want to do that.
Process.
Listen, I was talking on my stream this morning on the radio. It was reported by John Solomon from Just the News, who's had very accurate reporting on all of this stuff. Pam Bondi's Obama coup grand jury is in Fort Pierce, Florida, in St. Lucie County. That is the most MAGA place on earth. Okay.
Right, and they said it has to be outside of D.C. because if it was in D.C., it would be a wash.
Okay. So when you talk about when you guys, I know a lot of people are just obsessed with military tribunals. When people become generals or admirals, those promotions go through congressional committees. They're all political. Those people, and you have a better chance of getting a conviction in St. Lucie County, Florida, against these coup conspirators than you do in a military court. Plus, you don't want to get in a position where we start trying civilians and presidents and former secretaries of this and that in the military court. These things should be handled in the civilian court. The military answers to the civilian authority.
But it's the level of his crimes that we're going to see that are going to come out that would probably constitute that.
It's not going to happen. I mean, Democrats have immunity from prosecution on almost anything anyway. But Barack Obama is not just the first black president of the United States. He's the first black leader of a major nation. He is a bad, evil guy who did so many bad things. But history is going to remember him as a great person because he's the first black president, and that's just how it's going to be. And if we went after Obama instead of these others like Brennan and Comey and Clapper and the rest, the Democrats would circle the wagons. It would re-energize the Democrats, and these other trials wouldn't happen, and they'd all get away with it. Going after Obama is just a bad. He should go to prison. He's very bad, but it would be. It would be very self-defeating of us to go after Obama. Justice is not blind, and justice is not equal. I know it says so in the Constitution and all that, but everybody says it all the time, but it's not.
Yeah, I just want to say that because our forefathers were not stupid, and if we allow a president to have 100% immunity, that creates a dictatorship. So although we agree to disagree, I believe that there is a great possibility that Obama will be arrested, and I know we disagree, and that's okay.
That's what
because what if they go down and I go down the conspiracy to find out that he was not really a president, and that the whole birth certificate thing is true. So we have a lot of things that may be uncovered.
If I'll tell you this about the birth certificate, okay? He never produced the birth certificate. He produced a photocopy that was a color photocopy. Okay, no one has seen the original birth certificate with the raised seal. Okay,
right.
There may be a time when that's proven or shown, but it's not going to make a difference, and it's certainly not going to be in our lifetimes. It's just never going to happen, and they do have. I mean, that's just you gotta. I just deal with what is. I want Brennan, Comey, Clapper, and Hillary, and the rest to go away, and others.
I believe she's gone, but I would like to see Obama go.
But what I tell people is this: Obama has a life sentence of he's been sentenced to life of living with Michelle Obama. That's pretty. That's got to suck. You think that's fun?
Right. Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what she. But he's going to be exposed in these trials. He's really going to be tarnished.
Right. I think a lot is going to come out, whatever they're going to reveal to us publicly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, but I agree with you. I mean, everything you're saying about his crimes is right. And maybe some things will come out in these trials of Brennan and all the rest that'll be so shocking that the tide will change to where people will say, I don't care, he's got to go to trial himself, Obama. Maybe that'll change. But the way things are now, if Obama were charged, the whole country would stop. They would make sure, and the left would manufacture riots coast to coast. It would be so devastating. It would just stop everything. The Trump administration, everything would be stopped. They might even have to cancel the Olympics. It would be so destructive.
Oh no.
Yeah, it would. It would be insane.
Okay, well, I wanted to share that with you, and we will see what happens. But we should be really happy that this is happening because, like I said in the past calls when I spoke with you, I think we are going to see justice like we haven't seen before. I do think that these people are going to come down.
I hope
Comey, Brennan, Clapper, Adam Schiff, the whole line of them, Loretta Lynch. I want to see them all coming. Yeah.
Well, listen, I appreciate the call. You make some good points, all right?
Okay, thank you.
All right, take care, take care. Now, if you guys would like to support my content, become a Patreon supporter. There's a link in the description of the episode to my Patreon page, or you can go to patreon.com/Real Brian Craig Show. And if you become a Patreon supporter, of course, you're supporting all of my content, but you get access to a lot of exclusive content that goes nowhere else. Videos, posts, commercial-free editions of my podcast. Every episode of my podcast, the Brian Craig Show podcast, Patreon supporters get free access or commercial-free access to. If you become a top Patreon supporter, you get your name up on the screen and a live on-air thank you shout-out. So the names you will hear now are my top Patreon supporters. I want to thank SFjr, Christine, ETW, Chuck, Pamela, Nick, Wesley, Doris, Heather, David, Maria in Texas, Alice, LeeZep, Shawna, George, Brandon, John, Frank, Dale, Tina, David, Laura, Rob, Wes, Sue, and Janice. These are my top Patreon supporters. Again, there's a link to my Patreon page in the description of this episode, or you can go directly to patreon.com/Real Brian Craig Show. That's patreon.com/Real Brian Craig Show. Listen, everyone, thanks for tuning in. We had some really good calls. Even the ones that disagreed with me there. I think we had some really good conversations on the program today. I really enjoy that. You're welcome to call me whether you agree or disagree. I enjoy meaningful disagreement. That's cool and interesting. And I think maybe we reached some people that wouldn't think they would be MAGA. Think I might be in the process of flipping some people into the to be red-pilled. Yeah. My name is Brian Craig. This is where MAGA comes to talk. Thanks for listening, everyone, and I will see you next time. Take care.